What is up, my friends? It is your host, Nick Anderson, also known as Amongst the Whiskey. And today, I'm going to find out how to turn this sample jar into a full bottle. Want to know the secret? One of the tricks is to be a big spender. Oh, wow! Just like that, we have got the 2024 George T. Stagg. Now, if you didn't know, in recent years, Buffalo Trace has started putting NFC tags underneath the foil on the tops of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. Think I can see something going on under there. But of course, Buffalo Trace has an app for that. They do validation of legitimacy, and it will also tell you if the bottle has been opened or not. It does that by having a part of the circuit run through the foil strip that you tear off to open the bottle. So let's see how it works on this 2024 George T. Stagg. Yeah, I'm not sure this year's George T. Stagg has an NFC. Okay, good to know. Either I have a fake here, or the 2024 George T. Stagg doesn't have NFC. They didn't have it on the 2020. Can't confirm. Let's see if they have it on the 2024 Old Rip Van Winkle. Also, no. I happen to have 2 bottles of Old Rip Van Winkle, so I'm going to try the other one. Do I have to hold it here for a certain amount of time? This also distributed in huge numbers. I wouldn't be surprised if they're saving cost and not putting it on their cheaper, more available whiskeys. Okay, that's 3 swings and 3 misses on this year. I know I have 2022 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection that I have proven have all had NFC tags. Let me get one of those just to fact check if my app is working properly here. Yeah, how about this? 2022 Eagle Rare 17 year. Please scan a tag. I know this has an NFC tag. The Buffalo Trace app doesn't work. Go figure. Okay, we're gonna uninstall that. And we're just gonna search the Play Store for an NFC tag reader. Looks like the most reputable one that comes up is NFC Tools. Looks like this. Just like that, we got that one installed. And you can see it says approach an NFC tag. Let's do just that. So it wasn't the Buffalo Trace app. There's also a setting in Android under connections where you can turn off NFC. Looks like I had that off. Maybe I was being extra secure. I don't know. Toggle that on, and I'll probably reinstall the Buffalo Trace app because that's the app that they want you to use. Okay, have confirmed that I'm 21 or over. Back in the Buffalo Trace app. NFC's on. Okay, back to plan B. Reopen NFC Tools. And just to show you guys what I'm talking about here, I took off the foil from the Eagle Rare 17, and you can see there is a circuit under there. A tiny little chip. And if you see those 2 tabs that run down the side, that's your continuity check. When the foil gets peeled off, that's what breaks and tells the tag and the circuit and the reader that the bottle has been opened. All right, I went back through, double-checked my settings. NFC tags are readable. It said to put my phone in the middle. Would you look at that? Eagle Rare 17-year-old bourbon. And you can see authenticated by Selenco and has been opened, which is true. I've enjoyed quite a bit of that, actually. So now that we've confirmed that it works, let's go back and try to do George T. Stagg. Please scan a tag. It vibrated. There we go. Hilariously, it's missing a picture. But there you have it. This product is authenticated by Selenco and has never been opened. George T. Stagg. I love that it has a little product description here, too. This extremely hardy whiskey ages in new charred oak barrels for no less than 15 years. Straight out of the barrel, uncut and unfiltered, the taste is powerful, flavorful, and intense. Open it up with a few drops of water. I don't think I will. Sit back and ponder the wonders of the universe. That is exactly what I do every time I have a glass of George T. Stagg. They offer some tasting notes as well. These are not my own. I have my own. If you read my article, link down in the description, you're going to go crazy for what I rated it. Lush toffee sweetness and dark chocolate with hints of vanilla, fudge, nougat, and molasses. Underlying notes of dates, tobacco, dark berries, spearmint, and a hint of coffee round out the palate. I definitely thought this was more cherry forward than all of those chocolatey tones that they were mentioning. But look, this is a tremendous, tremendous whiskey. I was willing to overpay a little bit for this just because I already knew how good it was. But there's a lingering question in my mind. Is there variation bottle to bottle? Is what's in this bottle going to taste the same as what Buffalo Trace sent me in the media sample? My lid had a little bit of a leak in it when it arrived. And so I wonder if this sample was a little more oxidized than what we might experience out of the full production bottling. And I've long wondered, is there variation bottle to bottle? Is the beginning of a run going to taste the same as the end of a bottling run? So in an effort to try to figure out some of these questions, I'm going to pour the rest of my media sample, and we're going to pour a glass after we fresh crack this, and I show you on the NFC tag that it does in fact register that you open the bottle, which is kind of a cool thing. I know, we're nerding out over little things here. But we'll taste these side by side and see how similar or different they are. So you might be wondering, why did they even add NFC tags? Buffalo Trace had the idea to implement these to try to limit the opportunity in producing counterfeits, producing fakes. The idea was your consumer could get the Buffalo Trace app, scan it as I just did, and find out in just a couple of seconds, maybe a few more than a couple seconds if you have technical difficulties like me, but find out really quickly if the bottle is legit. Has it been validated by Salinka, which is their company that's handling their legitimacy service? Has somebody tampered with the foil? Has somebody opened it, poured out the good George T. Stagg for themselves to enjoy, and refilled it with Jim Beam swill? No offense, Jim Beam. Kind of some offense, Jim Beam. This is an opportunity to safeguard consumers that are potentially getting this secondhand. I know there is a robust secondary market for whiskey, not condoning or encouraging that in any way, but this is ultimately good for consumers. It might add a little bit of cost to the bottle, but Buffalo Trace is making plenty of money, I can confirm. So on this side is going to be a Mass Bourbon Alliance Glencairn. This is the side that I have my media sample poured into. Let's crack into the 2024 George T. Stagg. Yes, folks, these bottles do open. It is really quite simple. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tutorial here. So the foil, you see that? Yeah, you're going to want to get a fingernail or a finger underneath that foil, and then you're just going to want to start really working it around. And it's a little harder than previous years. It's a little harder now that we have the NFC tag in there. You can see there's like an extra layer. It's not just foil. There's like this extra layer of almost like a plasticky material. So you got to be a little bit careful as you're tearing your foil these days. It does like to splinter off on you and not really tear super clean now that they have the NFC tags under here. But I mean, you can see this bottle is opening. Okay, foil comes up. Let me show you this first. There is our NFC tag under the lid, which we read. We can't throw this away or we won't have anything to read. This is what I'm going to scan on my phone once again in just a moment and show you that this has now been opened. But first, and we'll put that foil back on the top. And now we will back out from this screen and we will rescan the NFC reader and see if it has changed. So just as a reminder, before we opened it, it says verified by Salinko and has never been opened. I'm going to back out. It says please scan a tag. And would you look at that? Authenticated by Salinko still, but now it says has been opened. You'll see the little lock in the corner has changed as well. Now it's purple and is open. So side by side, media sample in the Mass Bourbon Alliance Glen MBA, the fresh crack of 2024 George T. Stagg in the Amongst the Whiskey Glen. Let's get to tasting. My goodness. Oh my goodness. On the nose, the sample just smells exquisite. Super dark, super leathery, just classic old Kentucky bourbon. Smells exactly how I want George T. Stagg to smell. Cherry, figs, dates, beautiful. Fresh crack of the 2024 George T. Stagg full bottle, full retail bottle. Not as dark. Definitely a little lighter, more bright. There's like this kind of linen tone, which is a note that I typically will find on George T. Stagg. I found it on the 2020 release of George T. Stagg. I'll also drop a link to that down below in the description. I'll also drop a link to my Stagg Hub. Stagg Hub is a really awesome resource. It will teach you everything you need to know about Stagg, the man, the history behind the brand, all of the George T. Stagg releases, all of the Stagg Jr. releases, all in one spot. Click that link, bookmark it, revisit it later. We're going to continue on with this tasting here. Don't want to lose you yet. My goodness. Okay, no, this still smells really freaking good. There are subtle differences between the two. Now, granted, my media sample now has had about a month of airtime as well. So there's some oxidation happening there. What that tells me, though, is that this release is going to get better with time. Hopefully everybody's experience is the same there. I can't guarantee that that evolution will be the same person to person. Your air may be different than my air. That's just the humors of whiskey. Guess me this riddle. What beats pipe and fiddle? What's hotter than mustard and milder than cream? Anyway, yep, smells fantastic. A little less fruit than I'm getting on the media sample, so there are some subtle differences here. What I'll try to do is really agitate this up, really introduce some air to it so we can kind of live oxidize it here. Okay, nice. Definitely got some of those darker tones, that leather bit. Yep. Okay, they're starting to normalize to the same profile. The two glasses are starting to smell the same. That's a good thing. Let's get into a taste. I realize I'm a lucky, lucky man because I get to sip whiskey that tastes this good. I gotta tell you, it takes a lot to earn my 5 out of 5 rating, and this earned it. Earned every bit of it. I rarely give out 5 out of 5s. Peruse my website for a long time. It's going to take you a lot of reviews before you find another 5 out of 5 on my website. That is reserved for pinnacle whiskey. This is a pinnacle whiskey. Legit. Perfect. Perfect whiskey. That is your as bottled example. I love it. But do I love it as much as I like the media sample? Let's find out. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're drinking about the same. I do definitely like the media sample ever so slightly more. Again, that should bode well for folks that just got into a pour and they're wondering, Nick, maybe you were too generous with a 5 out of 5. I didn't have quite as an amazing experience as you had. And what I'll say to you is give it time. Be patient. Explore things 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 times before you write it off. Nobody's palate is good enough to get it right on the first try. That's the unfortunate truth with whiskey. It takes well triangulated experiences to really understand a whiskey's quality. That's why on my website, I always taste things 3 times. I never will give a rating if I haven't had sufficient amount of experience with a whiskey. You need to taste through these things. You need to filter out days that you weren't ready to sip that. You got to filter in days you're ready to taste. And all that monologue has just been backdropped by this beautiful whiskey linger of dark cherries, fig, nougat, just beautiful old Kentucky Buffalo Trace bourbon. Jumping back to the fresh bottling 2024. Yep. I mean, again, I'm so lucky. This is one of the best whiskeys I've had in a long time. And it takes a lot to get me really excited about modern bourbon today. In a field that's dominated by same old, this stands out and stands head and shoulders above the rest. There's a reason Buffalo Trace saves their best for a once-a-year release. They have to put their heart and soul into blending this to be the best it can be and making it in a quantity that is meaningfully distributed across the country. I mean, they have such a tall task. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye to our media sample. I'm obviously grateful that they sent this along. That in no way changes or influences how I review things. I mean, take a look at my Eagle Rare 17 review. I also got sent that sample, and you'll see my rating was not as kind as it was on George T. Stagg. As always, I lead with honesty. Honesty is the best policy. I think there are a lot of folks in the reviewing space, especially the YouTube space, that tend to just sensationalize to get traffic and clicks. My message to you would be to not fall for it. Ask folks if they have an editorial policy. Ask folks what kind of ethics they're using in their review process. I have it all written out. Again, I'll link that in the description as well. Editorial policy. I got you. I'm all about making your life easy, dropping you all kinds of links. So, like I said, farewell, Media Sample 2024, George T. Stagg. Cherries, just cherries for days. Cherry cordial, Black Forest cake, raspberry. I'm telling you, it's just perfect whiskey. There's nothing I would change about 2024 George T. Stagg. And I do mean nothing. And I've already done this in a previous video as well, but the 2020 George T. Stagg is a fun side-by-side. I think this is the closest comparing George T. Stagg to 2024. In my previous side-by-side tasting, I fresh cracked this 2020. And I decided that I liked the 2024 a touch better. So now I have the 2020 in this glass and the 2024 in this glass. Let's see if that assumption still holds up. Whew, 2020 is funky as can be. I remember why I really liked that release. Oh, here's a fun bit too. 2020, no NFC tag. Hey, go. Focus on me. Yeah, funkier, a little more oak. A little more oak on the 2020. Yeah, sweeter, more creme brulee and toffee tones, more vanilla, more fruit. Yeah, definitely more spice on the 2020. I get more allspice, black pepper, those general wood spices that come about at 15-year plus aging. And that might just be because it is a fresher pour. I'm going to have a sip of the 2020 just to let it tone down a little. Just perfect balance. Actually, more vanilla, more linen, more bright white tones, less fruit. It's almost like a crisp fruit on this one, more like a grape or an apple, maybe just a kiss of maraschino cherry juice. While this is definitely also a pinnacle whiskey, I definitely prefer the 2024 over the 2020. And previously, the 2020 was my top George T. Stagg batch. So for this to be the new king, that's pretty cool. So folks, you heard it here first. 2024 George T. Stagg is the one to hunt for. I'm honestly going to stock up on at least one backup of this tonight. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to find a backup because this is hands down one of my favorite whiskeys right now. George T. Stagg is my bottle of choice when I need to celebrate something. Christmas, a friend's birthday, a promotion, anything in life worth celebrating, I'll be popping a George T. Stagg. But that is going to do it for today, folks. I hope you found this enjoyable and educational as well. If you did, make sure you leave me a like. Feel free to subscribe. Drop me a comment. I want to hear from you. Are you hunting George T. Stagg this year? I know I am. So until next time, my friends, keep it amongst the whiskey.